Picture a quiet British street, sometime in the middle of the last century. Doors stand open, voices drift from front rooms, and children move freely between houses without a second thought. A shopkeeper leans in a doorway, neighbors chat across garden fences, and nobody feels the need to check a watch or a rule book. It all looks ordinary, almost dull. Yet many of these everyday moments would raise eyebrows today. Some might even bring official attention. That realization stops us short because it didn't feel unusual at the time. It was simply how life worked, before normal became something else. To understand why all of this felt so natural, we have to step back into the Britain that emerged after the war. It was a country shaped by making do, by pulling together, and by an unspoken agreement that people generally knew where the line was. Rules existed, of course, but they lived quietly in the background. Day-to-day life ran on judgment, manners, and a shared sense of responsibility. Most communities were close-knit, whether in terrace streets, new estates, or village lanes. You recognized faces, you knew who belonged where. If someone stepped out of line, it was usually handled with a word, a look, or a quiet conversation, not paperwork. Authority felt human, nearby, and personal. Time also moved differently. There was less hurry, fewer warnings, and far less recording of everyday actions. People trusted each other to get on with things. Today, we live surrounded by guidance, notices, and procedures designed to protect everyone at every moment. Back then, protection came from people themselves. That difference, subtle at first, explains how so many once normal habits could exist unnoticed for decades, until the world around them slowly changed and paved the way for a very different Britain. Most people today have no idea just how much freedom once filled ordinary British days. Children spilled out onto pavements after breakfast and were expected home only when the light faded or a familiar voice called their name. The street itself was the playground, alive with shouts, bicycle bells, chalk marks, and the steady rhythm of footsteps passing by. Inside local shops, things ran on trust and understanding. A missing coin might be settled tomorrow. A note scribbled on scrap paper was enough to hold something aside. Regular faces were greeted by name, and rules bent gently to suit real life rather than theory. Nobody announced these arrangements. They simply happened. Public spaces felt similarly relaxed. People chatted freely at bus stops, offered directions without hesitation, and kept an informal eye on one another's children. Behavior followed custom more than instruction. You learned what was acceptable by watching, listening, and absorbing the rhythm of those around you. None of this felt remarkable. It was the background hum of daily life, guided by habit and shared expectation. Today, many of these moments sound extraordinary, even risky, when described aloud. Yet back then, they passed unnoticed, stitched into everyday routines so tightly that few imagined they could ever disappear. It's only now, looking back, that we realize how unusual that ordinary freedom truly was, and how quietly it shaped a generation before slipping away. Those simple days linger in memory, surprising us with how fragile normality can be when time moves on. When the rules arrived, they didn't announce themselves with fanfare. They crept in quietly, often welcomed, sometimes barely noticed at all. A new sign here, a form there, a guideline offered just to be safe. Life carried on, and most people adjusted without giving it much thought. Concerns changed as Britain changed. Streets grew busier, communities larger, responsibilities more formal. What had once been handled with a raised eyebrow or a friendly reminder slowly shifted into something written down. Safety became a shared priority, not just a personal judgment. Accountability mattered more as the world felt faster and less familiar. Shops replaced handshake understandings with receipts and policies. Schools, councils, and workplaces added layers of structure, not out of mistrust, but out of care and consistency. The aim was protection, fairness, and clarity. Yet something subtle was lost along the way, though few noticed it at the time. Habits that once flowed naturally now required permission, planning, or proof. The change wasn't sudden enough to resist. It happened step by step, year by year, blending into everyday life. Only later did people realize they had lived through a turning point. What had been guided by instinct became guided by instruction, and common sense slowly learned to share space with rules. That quiet transformation reshaped daily Britain, setting the scene for the world we recognize today, while leaving memories of an easier rhythm behind. Those changes felt invisible then, but their impact still echoes whenever we look back and remember it began. It's tempting when remembering those days to label them as better or worse. But that misses the point entirely. Life simply felt different, shaped by circumstances that no longer exist. Freedom felt wider because trust carried more weight, and responsibility arrived early, woven quietly into daily routines. Children learned independence by doing, not being told. Adults relied on judgment, not instruction, and communities worked because people felt accountable to one another. That world had flaws, of course, but it also had confidence in ordinary people to make ordinary decisions. This isn't about wishing time could turn back. It's about recognizing what formed us and how those experiences still sit inside us today. The Britain we live in now didn't appear from nowhere. It grew from those habits and shared understandings. When we remember them kindly, without judgment, we gain a clearer picture of who we were and who we became. What would feel strange to them today? Imagine explaining a world of constant screens, instant messages, and rules for almost everything. The ordinary routines we barely notice might seem baffling to someone from that quieter Britain. One day, people will look back on our habits with the same disbelief we feel now. That thought connects us across time, reminding us that change never stops. Normal shifts, memory lingers, and every generation carries its own version of everyday life.